Welcome back to Newsmaker Live. Thank you very much for staying tuned. We're going into the juicy part, the sexy part of the show, where we talk about politics.
Juicy will work.
Juicy will work.
Yes.
No, but a lot of people love politics. You know, I mean, politics and St. Lucians, they are two peas in a pod. And we're talking about your re-emergence in partisan politics, party politics, and looking at the UWP, because there seems to be a void in the leadership, and Alan Chasney has seemingly presented himself to fill that void and to serve as another option to Stephenson King. You said Stephenson King should be challenged. Why do you think so?
I mean, I've said it before, and I like Steve as a person, and I mean, this is not a sort of a personal attack on him or anything. I mean, I do like him as a person. I speak very well to Steve, but I just don't think that he is leadership material. He's not. You know, a leader needs to be strong, decisive, able to make up his own mind, and Steve cannot do that.
But how did he last so long if he?
It was very clear. I mean, I think that's the general consensus. You know, Steve is a nice person. We like Steve. Steve is not strong. He is not a leader. That's why the United Workers' Party lost the election. That's why. Because Steve was not in control of the party. He was not in control of the government. He was not.
Who was?
Well, I mean, clearly there were a lot of people who had more influence than Steve and who were calling the shots. I think we know who these people are.
I don't. Enlighten me.
I mean, you had Rufus Bousquet, you had Richard Frederick. Steve was not in control.
Talking about Richard Frederick, I have a clip from Richard Frederick earlier this week, you know, commenting on the challenge to Stephenson King as leader. Let's listen to that clip.
7, we picked up, we have no place for largesse. We need somebody who can be conservative with our spending whilst attempting to take care of the people to the best of the resources of this country. And the person tried, tested, and who has proven himself is no other than Stephenson King. And that is why, I mean, St. Lucia right now is missing Stephenson King, because what passes for governance now is crap compared to what was transpiring when Stephenson King was at the head of this country. I was on a flight sometime in early 2007. We picked up Mr. Astafan, the lawyer, in Dominica. I was coming from Antigua, stopped in Dominica, picked him up, and we sat next to each other from Dominica to St. Lucia. And he said to me, politics is a funny thing. I asked him, what did he mean? He said, it was Alan Chasney who, not too long ago, had written that part of the speech for Dr. Kenny Anthony, believing that he would have won the elections. That part of his speech that related to tourism. And then he said, when our cabinet was sworn in, he heard Alan Chasney is Minister of Tourism. I cannot deal with all that kind of vacillation.
Interesting comments from Richard Frederick, of all persons. What do you make of the comments?
Well, I mean, Alan Chasney, it can be a potential leader, and I think his challenge to Stephenson King shows that there is democracy in the United Workers' Party, and that is a good thing. I think in any organization, I mean, persons must be free to put themselves up for any post that is going up in an election or in a convention. So I think the fact that Alan can challenge Steve is a good thing. As to whether Alan is the right person for the United Workers' Party for this period in time, I would need to hear what Alan's plans are for me to make my assessment or give my opinion. But in terms of, I think as a person, he is leadership material. In terms of whether or not he is the right person for the job now, I would have to hear what his intentions are, what his vision is for the party and for the country. So, I mean, probably Richard Frederick knows him better than I do. I've not served with Alan Chasney. I've not worked with him closely, so I have not had that opportunity to judge him or to assess him. Richard has had a better opportunity. I mean,
but you said that he is leadership material.
I don't think so. I mean,
based on what would you make that assessment?
I think that Alan genuinely cares about people. He has demonstrated that. He has worked within government before. I think that he did quite a good job as a Minister of Tourism. He was able to increase the visitor arrivals here to St. Lucia. He has some experience. And there is something there with a good team that can be worked with. As to whether or not he is the best person that we can find, he's the best person for the job. Right now, I would have to withhold my opinion on that until such time that I can hear from him as to what his plans are.
Now, who are the other options in your mind for the UWP at this point? You said that Steve is not leadership material, and probably he's impeding the progress of the party. I'm putting words in your mouth right now. Do you think that this is the case?
Yes, I think that if I'm sure there are lots of people out there who have the capability. I mean, if you're asking me to pinpoint who, that is difficult. I mean, I'm sure there are lots of people out there who have the capability, who may come forward if they see that there is an opportunity for real restructuring within the party. I think the continued presence of Steve there may be others, are keeping people away because they're saying, I'm not going to come to serve under a leader who, he had the prime ministership, he lost it. Sir John brought the United Workers' Party back in office. If Sir John had not returned, the United Workers' Party could not win the election.
So can the UWP win without Sir John?
Sir John brought them back in and they couldn't even keep it. Sir John is no longer here. There must be some other St. Lucia.
Or is the UWP dead?
I would not say that. I mean, the United Workers' Party has a serious support base in St. Lucia in terms of the electorate.
Enough to win an election, you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What people need to see is a leadership that they can follow. I mean, I think that the Labour Party won by default. People didn't want to bring back Kenny Anthony. People did not want to re-elect Kenny Anthony. In fact, so much so that up until the eve of the election, nobody could say who was going to win. I mean, that election was really won on election day. And I think a lot of the United Workers' Party sort of stayed away or at the last minute voted for the Labour Party. They were waiting to see something from Stephenson King that they could hold on to.
And they never got that.
And they never got it. Up to the last minute, they were waiting just to see some show of strength from Stephenson King, and they didn't get it.
We have a call on the line. Let's go to the phones. Good evening, caller. Thanks for holding.
Yes. I have a few questions. Ms. Flood, as a former politician yourself, I want you to tell me, as somebody who's been there, who's resigned before and found themselves ended up being outside of the house, is it in a party's best interest right now to elect a leader who is not even in the House of Assembly going into an election? Isn't that a step backward rather than forward? And just a comment on your point that Sir John is not there and the party may not be able to win without him. We forgetting the fact that we have 2 seats which were decided by less than 10 votes.
Okay.
That's not even a busload of people.
Okay.
Right? We have a seat where someone lost by 2 who had won the night before St. Lucians went to bed. Let me remind you of that. And when we woke up in the morning, he lost by 2.
Yes. Very
and
good
we have
points.
another who lost by 6.
7.
Well, 7. Right? The figures change almost every month on the electoral website.
Okay.
Right? And then we have a situation where nationally the party only lost by 3,300 votes.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
So just bear that in mind.
Yes.
But I want you to give me an
answer on whether the party can move forward with a leader who is not elected. Thanks a lot for that question.
Thank you very much. I think the caller raised some very important points there. First of all, and we discussed that before off the camera sort of thing, in the ideal situation, I mean, people want a leader who they know can win a seat. I mean, it's no point having a leader and you're not sure if that person can win a seat. So that is, I mean, that is a disadvantage right here for Alan. So that's an issue. So in a sense, the caller has made a very valid point. That's an issue. You know, the leader must be able, seat must be comfortably won. Comfortably won. There must be no doubt about that. So that's an issue. And secondly, with regard to whether the party can win without Sir John. Sir John's not here. So the party, if it cannot win without Sir John, it has no business being a party. So, I mean, the United Workers' Party has to think it can win without Sir John. But it needs a leader as good as or as strong as Sir John Cameron, or have the potential to be. So you need a real leader to be able to win.
Without sounding...
that is the problem. The leadership is the problem.
Without sounding conceited, arrogant, or full of yourself, would you consider Sarah Flood-Beaubrun leadership material and one who can take the United Workers' Party as it is right now, restructure, revamp, and come forward and challenge for the government?
Okay, first of all, it's what people think of me that really matters. I mean, whether or not I think I can do it is not the issue. It's what people think of me.
But I want to know what you think of you.
I think that my record has clearly shown that I am able to get things done. I mean, as Minister of Government, both in health and home affairs, and as a parliamentary representative. And in my personal life, I think it can be clearly seen that I am a worker and that I am able to get things done. You know, I think I can work well with people. I think I have a vision. And I mean, I am prepared. I mean, I am a flexible person. Of course, I hold fast to fundamental principles that I believe in, but I'm flexible on things that I can be flexible on. So I think that all these are qualities of a good leader. And I think, of course, I believe that I can do the job. I think I've proven that I am able to run a ministry. I know government. I understand government. I understand what needs to be done. As I said, it's what the people think that's important. I mean, the people are looking for other things as well in the leader. They want somebody who genuinely cares, somebody that they can approach, somebody who they believe is coming there not for their own personal goods, but to serve people. So people are looking for all of these things. So at the end of the day, it's what the electorate thinks of me.
Let's hear from an elector. We have a call on the line. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Yes, pleasant good night. I'm enjoying the conversation tonight.
Good evening.
I want to say you guys are doing a good job. I was going to mention what you were mentioning, but you just did a wonderful job, ma'am.
Thank you.
You just did a wonderful job explaining what was benefit. I want to add that what the people of St. Lucia really need is a government that is going to fight for them, is going to stand up for them, is going to be there for them. That's what they really need. We want them to be the voice for us, because that's why we put them there. We want them to we're giving them the power to do what we want them to do for the better of St. Lucia. The better of St. Lucia and the people of St. Lucia. That's what and I can see that the party is alive and well, but that's what we need as Lucians, as citizens of St. Lucia.
All right, thank you very much for your contribution. Yeah, I mean, this challenge, this initial challenge to Stephenson King, do you see this opening up just doors for other people to challenge, to come in and challenge, say, okay, well, if Alan Shastney has stepped forward and said, you know, he's going to challenge, I should challenge as well. You're looking at Spider Montoute, for example, former deputy leader under Sir John, who should have been Prime Minister, except for his experience. You have Ezekiel Joseph also, who might have designs on being leader as well. What do you make of these people's chances, and also a serious challenge being mounted by them?
I think it certainly opens the door. If you remember way back, even when Maria Joseph was brought in as leader, it opened the door not just for other challenges to come in right away, but for later down the road for there to be challenges. So, I mean, I think that's another reason why the challenge posed by Alan Chasney is important, because people don't like to be the one to challenge the leader. You know, people don't want to feel that they are challenging the leader. You know, but the fact that somebody is stepping forward to do it means that others are saying, "Well, I might as well throw my hat in the ring too." So, I mean, let us see what happens, but it certainly opens the door.
Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good night.
Good evening.
And good night to your guest. Okay, what I have to tell Mr. Flood, you see, what I would like to see happen in St. Lucia is that a group of 17 women put their heads together, and I think they're going to make a change in St. Lucia, because what happens, we have that red and yellow. Now we could still have the yellow, or the red, but I want a full 17 candidates of women. I want to hear your.
Thanks, caller. Would you support that suggestion or recommendation that 17 women?
Well,
I'm telling you from earlier, I would have issues with that.
Well, I think what the caller is trying to say is that you want something said, ask a man. You want something done, ask a woman. I think that's what Margaret Thatcher. I think that was one of her sayings.
And you want a lot of emotion, you put women in there.
I certainly think we need to have as many women as we have men. It's important. I mean, your country is a bigger family. You need mother and father in the home. Because, I mean, women, we have certain talents as women, men have certain talents.
Right.
We need both talents, both attributes to come in. And so it is important that we level the playing field and we have more women, and certainly work towards having as many women as men. At the end of the day, what we need is good candidates. You know, you want good people to serve, people who are sensitive, who understand the needs of people, and who are able to address the problems and the issues, be they man or woman. But it is important to have a balance, because, I mean, women have a different perspective. I explained to you how I felt about the time when the woman came in and she just didn't have a place to go, how when that young boy was in the cell, and, you know, I mean, as a woman, as a mother, it broke my heart, because I'm thinking that, well, this could be my son. This could be my sister. Something needs to be done about that. I mean, I brought that problem home with me. It had to be dealt with. So, I mean, women do have a more sensitive outlook on things, and we bring the softer side in, which is important. Because at the end of the day, whatever issues you're dealing with, whether you're building buildings or what, it's for people. It's for the betterment of people, and you must understand how it affects people from that personal point of view. And that is something that even strong and hard women like me bring to the table.
We have another call. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good night, your guest.
Good night.
Contrary to Mrs. Beaubrun, I heard you question Mr. King's leadership qualities, but I can attest I had an opportunity to work with this gentleman. I find he is a very good leader. He has the qualities of a leader. Leader is one who understands people, who can manage, who is kind. You know, I'm giving you that based on reference. When there were certain positions to be attained at a general hospital, people brought in politics and say, do not appoint that person because that person is not supporting the United Workers' Party. And you know, this gentleman said, no. Give this lady a chance. Let her prove herself. The Bible tells you wisdom. This man has wisdom. I'm not one who take politics. Let me tell you, I believe in politics, but I'm just being fair. I had the opportunity to work with you as well. But I can tell you, Mr. King is a good leader. He did not lose the election. He won his seat. And can you blame him for what really happened with the UWP? Can you really blame him? I'll answer that for you. If he had the ability to win his seat, are you going to say he's a weak leader? I'll give you a chance to answer these questions, and I'm saying I had an opportunity to work with this gentleman. He's kind. He has an open mind. He has wisdom. He can work. He has ability. Though I must say I work hard, and he never sees with that I get paid for a fair wage. But if I had to choose again, apart from this government, I would choose Mr. King as a good leader. I'll be honest with you. I have nothing personal talking to you doesn't mean that I have anything personal. I'm just saying. I work with this gentleman, and I feel he was chosen by God as a leader. And believe me, if you all go to election and select somebody else, UWF will be still out of power. You can take and remember my words tonight, what I'm saying to you.
All right. Thanks, caller.
I had a dream that this man would be a leader, and I saw it came to pass.
Thank you.
He can improve on his skill.
Yes. All right. Thanks a lot, caller. I mean, yes. Is there a difference between being a leader and being an astute politician, which obviously Stephen King is?
And I think she made a good point, which I made before. Steve is a nice person. I mean, he's an approachable person, and I'm sure he has done a lot of good for people, as she said. You know, he said, give the state a chance, let it prove herself. That is the kind of thing Steve would say. You know, I can hear Steve saying that. But clearly, I mean, she isn't out to her opinion. She has had her experiences with him. And I'm sure there are people who also share these views. But I think we're talking about winning an election. Now we have the Labour Party in office. The Workers' Party is getting itself together. If this leadership, if people didn't think that the leadership was an issue, we wouldn't be talking about it now. The reason we're having this long dialogue is because there are a lot of people who believe that Steve is not a strong leader. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
We have another call on the line. Good evening, caller. Thanks for holding.
Good evening, sir, and welcome to your guest.
Good evening.
Good night, Sister Sarah.
Good night.
One thing I just cut back was when Sir John was in leadership and he voted the UWP government out. He resigned immediately. So why come Mr. Stevenson did not resign after he lose the election? I'm waiting for listening to your answer on the phone.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, I didn't hear too clearly. I think what he's asking is
he said when someone lost the election, that person resigned. Why didn't Stephen King resign when he lost the election?
Yeah, I suppose he's saying resign as leader. I mean, clearly he won his seat, so the people deposed their confidence in him, and it is for the party to decide who is their leader. I mean, if the party is willing and prepared to accept Stephen King as a leader, this is why he's there. It is now the convention, and now is the time to choose a new leader. So that is where we are at. So, I mean, there's a process, there's a procedure. I mean, he chose not to resign, but he was a member of parliament. The people elected him. So I don't think in a case like that he necessarily had to. But having said that, the convention coming up is an opportunity for him to relook at whether or not it is in the interest of the party that he remains. And so it is something for the entire body of the United Workers' Party to consider, which is what is happening now. So
Now, would that be a referendum on his leadership? And I will have you answer that question after we take this call. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Clinton. Good evening, Sarah.
Good evening.
I don't have much of a big point to make, but just want to say that I've always been an admirer of Sarah. You have proven yourself to be quite a strong, remarkable woman. I hope you continue the good work that you are doing. I am not a feminist, not sexist in any way, but I do believe that having a lot more, not even equal, but a lot more women in parliament and government and the top positions in St. Lucia will make a humongous difference here. That's my point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Talking about the leadership and July, the convention, will that be a referendum on the leadership of Stephen King?
Well, meaning if he wins, it's going to suggest that people believe. You know, I would not necessarily say that. I mean, what happens inside these rooms? I mean, there's just so much
politicking.
From what I've seen, certainly when I was with the United Workers, with the Labour Party, I mean, you hear people complain about Kenny Anthony, complain. Oh, with this and that and what, we're going to challenge him and this and that. And when it comes, not one person votes against his leadership. Not that they didn't want to do it, but there is so much pressure. There is so much pulling and pushing. There's so much pressure. I mean, people chicken out at the end of the day. So it's left to be seen whether people will vote the way they really feel.
Interesting.
It is left to be seen. And I mean, a lot has to do with registration of delegates, whether you get your delegates in, the delegates you get. I mean, a lot of work has to be done by whoever is challenging Stephen King to get their delegates in there who will vote the way they want, because not everybody can vote. I mean, I would imagine every constituency has a certain number of people who can go in.
Right.
And, I mean, those persons are going to choose the leader on behalf of
everyone else.
So it's who you manage to get in there. And I mean, how you are able to convince people to vote. So it's a representative group of the United Workers' Party voting for. And I mean, you have to make sure so the people who get in there are really genuine United Workers' Party people. All of these issues have to be dealt with in terms of the practical.
Yes, definitely. We have another call. Good evening. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Sarah.
Good evening.
Bravo, woman. Women like that I like around me. You are a very strong woman.
Thank you.
Keep on the good work. You know what I will say? I think Mr. Stephen King, our past Prime Minister, he's a very good man. Now, very good people doesn't enter politics. And I think that team he has around him, some of the members don't respect him enough as a Prime Minister and as a leader. That is why they lose the election. But he's a very good minister, and I think he's too soft-hearted. That's why he could not run the country the way it should run. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yes.
But is that true? Is that really true? Because there are certain decisions that he took, and there are certain ways that he, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but where he worked his way through situations that would indicate that he was skilled. He had a particular skill in getting around.
There was so many times you thought that certainly was the end of him, and he emerged from it.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, that certainly.
What does that indicate?
That certainly shows that he has the skill. He's able to hold on. I mean, so many times we saw that was the end of Steve. Steve couldn't get up this one, and he did. So he certainly has that political skill there. The caller made a point. He's too soft-hearted. Doing the right thing sometimes means making a hard and popular decision. If somebody has a really bad wound that's infected, a doctor needs to go in there and cut the person open. Sometimes you have to cut a leg to save a life. And being kind and being soft-hearted doesn't mean that you don't make hard, sometimes unpopular decisions. To help people, sometimes you have to hurt them, because the hard decision will hurt you for a while, but in the end it will be for your good.
Can he survive? Can he survive this one? He has survived so many other attacks and challenges while he was Prime Minister. Can he survive this one?
It remains to be seen. There's so much that needs to play out. I mean, we're speaking here as armchair politicians in a sense. It's what's going on.
That's what I do best.
Yes. It's what's happening on the ground, and he'd have to win this constituency by constituency, going to those delegates in the constituencies that are going to come to the convention to vote. So the campaigning has to happen constituency by constituency, because at the end of the day, you need the votes of these people. So there's a lot of groundwork to be done. But the point a caller raised earlier and we discussed, Alan Shastney does have the challenge to face that he was not able to win in spite of all the money that he spent, all the effort he put in, being a minister of government at the time, able to work within the constituency. He was not able to win the Sufra seat. So is he able to win a seat? And you want your leader to be Claire. I mean, Claire have won his seat so that he can help others win their seats to go first past the post. I mean, a leader's seat is supposed to be so secure that he can bring in other seats. So clearly that is a challenge or an obstacle that Alan Shastney has to get over.
Well, you know, time passes so quickly, especially when you're discussing politics.
Yes.
And we have to leave it here, unfortunately, but it was indeed a pleasure speaking with you again, sitting down and having this chat with you. And welcome back. It's nice to see you.
Thank you very much, Clinton. It was a pleasure. Thank you, viewers. Good evening.
Well, we want to thank you for being part of Newsmaker Live this evening. On behalf of the entire team, I want to thank again Mrs. Sarah Flood-Beaubrun for being our very special guest. hopefully we'll get a chance to speak with her close to July when the convention is held, the UWP convention is held, and we can get some more insight into what is happening. There would be certain other developments that we would want to report on. But we again want to thank you for being part of the show. Those of you who got the opportunity to call in, thank you very much for making it as exciting as it was, and we invite you to join us again next week at the same time. Oh, sorry, next week is May Day, so we will not be here next week, but the week after that, God willing, we'll be back here for another Newsmaker Live. Also Saturday night, God willing, we'll be here with the Press Club, so tune in for that. Until that time, have a good one.